My name is Samuel Trapp. I'm a Russian-speaking American, and I do quite a few YouTube videos about events going on between Russia and America. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about a normal, plain old, ordinary American view of what's going on with BRICS. In America, if you're not paying attention to this, you might want to start. I'm not an expert. There's a couple of good experts out there that I've been listening to lately, but I've been paying attention to this for quite a few years. If you're an American and you don't know how the international banking system works, well, it started back, quite a few years ago when they started international trade of currency. And most of the time, that currency is traded through a system called the SWIFT system, which is controlled mostly by Western banking, some in Europe and some in America. But if sanctions are imposed, it's usually by these jokers, okay? And they just put sanctions on Russia. We're not going to allow you to participate in our banking system. They steal Russian money and freeze it. They freeze the money and put it aside and say you can't use it because you're not doing the political things that we think you need to do because we dictate what people should do in the world. Now, you can have whatever political views you like. You can agree or disagree with the goings-on in Israel, Hamas, between those two parties, between Russia and Ukraine, between Taiwan and China. Anybody you want to, you can do it. But if they don't affect you, it's not like you're going to have any say in what it is. Well, the U.S. for years has dictated through the oil dollar and through the SWIFT banking system what other countries can and cannot do. And if the U.S. decides that you're not playing by the proper rules, then they might curtail or limit or exclude you from access to the SWIFT banking system. And this is how they put economic sanctions on people and say, well, fine then, the world is controlled by the dollar, you can't trade in the dollar. And most Americans, and I don't mean this in any bad way at all, but most Americans don't run into this system or understand what's going on. And the point of this video is to make sure that you understand some big events that are happening. And by the way, it's election time and Trump hasn't said a word about it. Harris never would. She doesn't understand it herself. And Biden, he might have understood it at one time, but none of them mention it. It's not even on the radar in what's going to happen with the American dollar. They just want you to believe as Americans that the dollar is always going to be around, dollar is always going to be the only currency, and anybody who says anything to the contrary, they limit what they're able to say. That shouldn't be happening. And if they limit my ability to say what I think about the SWIFT banking system, well, we'll see, won't we? If they limit me on YouTube or through Google or anywhere else from putting out these warnings, because they're valid warnings. And America, you need to consider this. Now, here's some great big things that just happened, okay? In the last 6 months, first quarter of this year, China dumped $60 billion in U.S. treasuries. The last quarter, they did another similar amount. That they're unloading U.S. debt. Why? Because in 2014, Russia started making its own system to have international money transfer system. I wish I could remember the name of it, but China created one too. China's is younger, but Russia created and started preparing for theirs in 2014. And I can't remember the word in Russian is сокращение, the abbreviation. I can't remember and they have an abbreviation for that, and I don't. But China just started one, and China, as I do recall, it's called CIPS, CIPS, China International transfer system, however that works out. But they're starting to have their own. And these countries are starting to trade in their own local currency, which even between themselves. Now get this, America, India, very recently, and India is all for this new system, and India is a foundational member of BRICS. BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. That's what it stands for, BRICS. And they have been hoarding gold, all of them, and they're creating a BRICS system, guess what, backed by gold. And we got rid of our gold backing in 72, and now all of our money is funded by U.S. debt, and China is unloading U.S. debt. The oil dollar disappeared just this past year and is now the oil dollar. Saudi Arabia is not using the oil dollar. They have agreed to trade in other trade, and Saudi Arabia got rid of a bunch of oil debt. How does the U.S. pay for oil from Saudi Arabia? Through oil debt. And now it's going to be, these are small things, but all of them put together shows that these people who are warning of a collapse of the U.S. financial system or of the dollar are probably correct. And if you have money in the dollar, get this, Russia does no longer allow you can't receive your money in a foreign currency when you go to a bank. You used to be able to get, if you went to a bank in Russia and had Russian ruble, you could turn them in and receive in exchange the American dollar or the European, the euro. You could get that money. Well, about a year ago, they said you could no longer do it. Since sanctions, in the U.S., what do they keep threatening? More and more sanctions, but these sanctions become less and less powerful. Why? Because everybody's trying to protect themselves from sanctions. The BRICS countries, there are 97 new countries that want to join. There's a conference on BRICS in Kazan, Russia, Tatarstan area, and they're having a conference in October of this year. I truly would love to go, and I'm trying to get that worked out so I can go, and we're going to see what happens. And I believe that I'm going to try to be there because I want to be on the ground floor of what these new things, what they are creating and how they are creating it and what it means for us. And I'd like to be there. So Americans, if you're paying attention here, I think you would be well suited to begin to ask your leaders why we are not speaking about BRICS, and don't accept that we're the dollar, all that's just conspiracy theory. That's that trap and crazy people like him that are out there spouting off conspiracy theories, Well, what do you think, the people are hiding aliens in the mountains? Come on. That's conspiracy theory. Everything we hear about is if they don't want you to know about it, they call it a conspiracy theory to shut you up. The shadow government that controlled Biden for 4 years, that is looking to control Harris for the next 4, they're very powerful. And these people are real. Now, whether they're the shadow government or whether they're conspiracy, whether it's all a conspiracy, I'm willing to admit that there's probably some bit of truth to that fact that you create larger stories that need to be created. But this is very real. And if the U.S. doesn't do something to talk about what's going to happen to the dollar from the regular end up, we are Americans. They're always going to claim that we don't know anything because they control that. They only tell us what we need to know for our own survival. Well, they're stopping the fact that the BRICS system could destroy us all if we don't act accordingly. Is there anything wrong with having a few banks in the U.S. that work outside of the SWIFT system? Will the law allow for it? I haven't researched those questions yet, but I'm very interested to know. And I don't have a lot of big financial holdings. I'm not a rich person, but I understand how and why this system is working and what's going to happen if we don't address it. The rest of the world is tired of us, America. They just are. They're tired of us telling them what to do all the time. How many countries in Africa and the Middle East are kicking us out? Get out. Think about it. Think about all the countries telling us to get out. We have our bases everywhere around the world, spending billions and billions of dollars annually. Why? To buy these countries, make them use the World Bank, which, by the way, BRICS has created a competitor to the World Bank too, because the World Bank requires what? BRICS integration. I mean, not BRICS, I'm sorry. SWIFT integration into the SWIFT banking system and a base of dollar exchange based on the dollar. That's not going to be around forever, folks, and you need to pay attention because this is a big deal. My name is Samuel Trapp. I like to call myself the Russian-speaking American. I appreciate you listening to my channel in English or in Russian, and it would be very nice if you put some likes on my channel and paid attention, because now most of my speaking I do in Russian, but I'm also trying to get a radio program together with my old partners in Lake Ozark, Osage Beach, Missouri, and I would like to get that back up and running. If you do not understand what's going on, and I'm not an expert on it yet, but I will be with what happens with BRICS, find out. Ask your politicians. Those jerks won't answer you anyway. They'll just ignore you and point you in some other direction. Look, a squirrel. And they'll send you off another way so that they can distract you with other things. That's exactly what's going on in our world, on the television, everywhere else. Get your news from somewhere else, because what they're providing is not news. Thank you very much, America. Have a very nice day.